Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to go ahead and work on some side dishes for Christmas dinner. I'm working on the ham right now. It takes me about 2 weeks to get the ham ready. I take a leg of pork, brine it for a week, and then salt it for a week. I'll put the instructions below. It's fairly easy. It's just time consuming. What happens in my household, along with a lot of other households, is that we have a traditional Thanksgiving, which is the turkey, the stuffing, gravy, green bean casserole, everything. That's for Thanksgiving, and that's in November. Christmas is something different. A lot of households think that Christmas dinner should be ham with the same sides as you had on Thanksgiving. That's not necessarily true. In fact, it's not necessarily true to have a traditional Thanksgiving with the turkey and the cranberry sauce and everything else like that either. It's all about giving thanks. Christmas is all about celebration of winter time and the celebration and family. And just the food goes along with it. On Christmas is we do something a little bit southern, something regional to the southern United States. One thing about the food in the southern United States is a lot of it came from Africa, but a lot of their food, a lot of their culture stayed in the South. And that's part of what we are going to go ahead and do today. Today we are going to go ahead and do what's called smothered cabbage. You can do this with any green. We just typically do it with cabbage because it's readily available at this time. Collard greens, not so much. Kale. I do have the frozen sweet potato leaves that I can put in here. I'm not going to do that because I have plans for those later on. And we're also going to go ahead and get some black-eyed peas prepared to be able to do something with. I'm going to show you how to can beans from dry. You can just get dried beans and you can put them in a jar and you can pressure can them with water, obviously. And then in 75 minutes, you'll have beans that you can readily put into recipes. And that's just going to be like 5 seconds. What I have here is I have a medium-sized head of cabbage. We're going to go ahead and cube this. I've got most of it done. You're just going to get the core out. You're going to cube it into about 1 by 1 inch strips. Approximately. Now don't worry about it being you thinking this is too much. This is going to cook down and break apart, and it's going to reduce in volume. I don't have any nutmeg. I like to put nutmeg into this, but I do have some allspice, and we're going to use that. A little bit of thyme, a little bit of ginger, garlic. You want to use broth and not water for this. I have a leek cut up and washed. You do need to wash your leeks. There is a lot of dirt in between the layers. I did get some bacon ends for this. You can use regular bacon for this. You just chop it up. I'm going to use a pound of this. This is a 3-pound bag. I'm going to put the rest of this in the freezer. Okay, and we're going to render this down and try to cut up any really big pieces, because the bacon ends, sometimes you get really big pieces like this, and it's easier if you just chop these up. But we have this all cut up for the most part. There's also going to be some stringy parts to it. I'll go ahead and cut these up. We're going to render this down. Now we're going to keep the bacon grease in here. We want that bacon grease mixed in with this. That's where the flavor is going to be. Okay, when this is about done, cooked through, you don't want it crispy cooked through. You just want it nice and just cooked through. You want to get some of that fat rendered out of the fat, because what you're going to do is you're going to add the stock to this. Now any stock will do. I'm using some deer stock because that's what I have on hand. I could use some turkey stock with this because we had just did that. But let's get rid of the deer stock first. I need to make some new fresh deer stock. Now you want to bring the temperature up a little bit because you want to let this boil just a little bit. And while this is coming up in temperature, go ahead and add your garlic. Now, add as much garlic as you want to taste. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons. You really don't want to put any salt in this because the bacon has enough salt in it. But if you need to add either salt or pepper to this, you want to do that after everything is cooked through. We also want to add about a tablespoon of ginger. I have some already in the freezer that's ground up. That needs to be used. What I do is that I get fresh ginger, usually out of my garden. Garden didn't produce this year. And so I had to buy some more. I freeze it in cube form. That way I can just add it. And it's about a tablespoon at a time. Once everything is starting to come up to a boil, we're going to go ahead and add the onions. Let that come back up to a boil for about 10 minutes. Because you want that onion flavor in the broth. You can use any onion. You can use white onions, red onions. In this I prefer leeks because it has a milder onion flavor. And we're going to add about a tablespoon of thyme at this point. Once it comes up to a boil, you want to add the entire cabbage. A little bit at a time. You may need to wait a little bit depending on the size of your pot. But you don't want to reduce the temperature just yet. And this is usually where I add the nutmeg. And since I don't, I'm using allspice. Just a little bit, about a half a teaspoon. You don't want it to overpower. It just adds to that greenness of the cabbage and the onions. It's actually quite good. Okay, now that this is all intermixed together, we're going to go ahead and put a lid on this, put this on low for an hour. Stir it about every 15 to 20 minutes. But you want this to cook low and slow. One thing that I have noticed that everybody in the entire world has a way of cooking cabbage and preserving cabbage. Everybody. You've got sauerkraut in Germany, kimchi in Korea. You know, they're called pickled vegetables in a lot of other cultures. They'll also cook this fresh. Cabbage is one of those versatile things that can go with anything and everything. So if you don't like cabbage, it's in everything. And it's everywhere. But let's go ahead and I'll show you how to prepare the jars for pressure canning the black-eyed peas. You can do this with any bean. Pinto beans, red beans, garbanzo beans, lima beans, you name it. This works with all dried beans, including peas, lentils, everything. Alright, so here we have our Tiny and Mighty out. This will hold 2 jars. I got this for small batches. You're going to make sure that the seal is nice and tight. And put some water at the bottom of this. About 3 inches, because we're going to be pressure canning this for 75 minutes. Okay, so for every pint of beans, you're going to add 1/2 cup of dried beans. That means that if you're making this in a quart jar, you're going to want to put in 1 cup of dried beans and then fill the rest of it with water. You can add a little bit of salt if you want. I usually don't. Okay, you want to fill it up to 1 inch to the bottom rim right there. That's 1 inch from the top. And that's it. All we have to do is pressure can these for 75 minutes. Okay, so you ask, well, why don't you just store these dry and cook as needed? Well, on cooking as needed. I have a whole bunch of dried items, including beans in my house. I have a dehydrator. I dehydrate out of my garden of things that, like spices. I dehydrate those and then I use them in my cooking. I also have dehydrated oranges, lemons, tomatoes, okra. I even have dehydrated sweet potato leaves, and that is for different types of cooking. And I do want to go ahead and start showing you how to make your ingredients again. This year was a really bad garden year, and with the price of everything that's going up, it's kind of hard to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and try. I still have the miso that is fermenting. That will be done in February, so we have another 2 months left before we break that out of its nice little cubby hole. I also have other things like vinegars that are vinegaring right now. And I'll drop the link below on how to make apple cider vinegar, or it's not apple cider, it's apple scrap vinegar. It's what you can do with the rest of your scraps, like the cores and the peels. You can also dehydrate the apple peels, grind them up in a powder, and use them in baking. Let this vent for 10 minutes and then put your weight on. Okay, so it's been an hour and we're going to go ahead and put everything away. I'm kind of cheating this year. I am making the ham, but we're going to go ahead and just use some roasted vegetables, store-bought cornbread. The peas, or the black-eyed beans, I'm going to go ahead and put that in a different video. Because it's not going to take long for me to do all this. The ham is going to take the most of the time. There we have black-eyed peas ready to be cooked with onions, bacon, tomatoes, ready on Christmas Day. Prep time for your bigger dinners like this is crucial. Okay, so now that we have a lot of our Christmas prep done, all I have to do is cut up the vegetables to roast them in the oven the day of Christmas, as well as warming up the cabbage. The cornbread is pre-bought, so all I have to do is warm that up. And then we're going to go ahead and cook that ham. Thank you for joining. You have a Merry Christmas if I don't see you before then. See you next time.